Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're going to be doing the top 5 best crossbowmen in Mount and Blade Bannerlord. I'm doing this because a lot of people were really upset that I didn't include crossbowmen on my ranking of best archers, but that's because I meant bowmen when I was doing that video. It wasn't any slight against crossbowmen. I definitely appreciate them for what they're good at. And so today we're going to be going through the top 5 best ones. And so that will come down to a number of things like the equipment they come with, the stats they have, how easy or hard they are to get, whatever, you know, all of those things that we use for all of our rankings. And so let's just dive on in and start off with number 5. So starting us off at number 5 for the best crossbowmen in Bannerlord, we have the Veteran Sword Sister. Now these are fun. They're based off of the Sword Sisterhood, or Sword Sisters, I can't remember, from Mount and Blade Warband, which they started off as camp followers and then you could level them up. And they actually became a pretty good troop, very heavily armored. And in this game they start as Sisterhood followers, then you can do Sword Sisters, and then they can either go to the Veteran Sword Sister, which is a footman that specializes in crossbows, and they've got a great big shield, or the Gallant Sword Sister, which is an interesting troop that's like a mounted type skirmisher person, somehow also equipped to the crossbow. I don't love the Gallant Sword Sister, if I'm being honest, but the Veteran Sword Sister works pretty well. So just at a base level overview here, we can see that they've got a level 150 crossbow skill, which makes them one of the best crossbow people skill-wise in the game, and they do have a decent crossbow. It's not the best in the game, but it is all right damage-wise, so they are pretty dang effective. You can also see that their one-handed skill is 130, and they do have a one-handed weapon, and their athletics is 130, so they're pretty mobile. They, equipment-wise, like I already said, they have a pretty good crossbow. They've got all right armor. It looks really cool in my opinion, but it's a little on the light side, and the weakest point is obviously they don't wear helmets, which makes them incredibly vulnerable to enemy fire. That's the reason I ranked them so low, despite the fact that their crossbow stat is as high as it is. On the bright side, they do have that great big shield, which they can use to defend themselves. You know, when it comes down to it, the lack of a helmet does make them pretty weak. That being said, they're fun to use, especially if you're role-playing maybe as an all-female fighting force. You're just fighting with sword sisters. I guess that could be a fun challenge that I've never given a try. But, you know, they're effective enough for what they are. As far as recruiting them goes, you can recruit them at taverns in any major towns, or you can capture them from enemy armies and then recruit them from your prisoners. The most effective way is probably taverns, and I find that the area where you'll most often find them is in the VLANDIAN territory. So the towns there, if I want to do an army of veteran sword sisters, I just run back and forth between the towns in Vlandia and just keep checking the taverns. You'll find lots of other people, but you'll find the sword sisters very frequently. As far as other pros for them go, they level up pretty fast because they don't require a ton of experience. Like I said, their wage is quite a bit higher because they're a mercenary troop, so their wage per person is actually 18 gold. So not very cheap, but they're fun to use, and they take the number 5 spot on this list. Alright, and so at number 4, we've got a two-way tie between the Imperial Crossbowmen and the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowmen. And so we'll look at the Imperial Crossbowmen first, so you can see them pictured on the left there, with medium heavy armor, a decent helmet, but unfortunately very large open-faced area, which is a weak point, and the rest is chainmail, which provides pretty good protection. As far as stats go on these ones, they have a one-handed skill of 100, athletics of 100, and crossbow of 100, so very balanced all the way across. Have a decent crossbow, not the best in the game, but pretty good, so they do high damage. They're a pretty effective unit. They only cost 8 gold per person. They're not bad. I like them. They've got certain pros and cons to them, so if you're in the Imperials or you're trying to roleplay with just Imperial troops, or you're trying to get them to the highest level crossbowmen, then obviously the Imperial crossbowmen are a good option, and you can obviously recruit a lot of them because there's tons of Imperial settlements. So quite a few pros and cons to the Imperial crossbowmen, but the other side of the number 4 spot is the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowmen, and I consider them to be superior to the Imperial Crossbowmen. So the only thing that the Imperial ones do better is they have heavier armor, so they're a little bit better armored than the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowmen. But other than that, the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowman is better. For one thing, the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowman has that nice big shield, which offers really good protection, and for another thing, they have a better crossbow that deals higher damage. As far as stats on them go, it's going to be the same though. 100 for one-handed, 100 for athletics, and 100 for crossbow. So stat-wise, they're the same, but the Imperial Crossbowman has slightly better armor than the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowman, and the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowman has a slightly better crossbow. So higher damage for the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowman, but also worse armor. So those are the two that take the number 4 spot. Alright, so at number 3, right in the middle, we have the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen. And now this one for stats, you can see over on the right, we've got a one-handed of 130, athletics of 130, and crossbow of 130. So nice and balanced again. Makes them a decent unit overall. The thing I like about the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen is that because of the fact that they're one-handed and their athletics is nice and high, and the fact that they've got decently heavy armor and usually come equipped with a shield and a sword, they also work as an infantry troop. So if your enemy gets too close or they run out of bolts, you can use the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen as a pretty effective infantry unit. So that is a strength of theirs. And other than that, again, they've got heavier armor than most of your archers are going to have, especially crossbowmen, and a slightly worse crossbow than their VLANDIAN counterpart. So I like the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen. They definitely are a lot of people's favorites, and I know why. Like I said, their heavier armor makes them less susceptible to enemy arrows. But they do have a smaller, skinnier shield, and so there are a number of things, that and their crossbow, which deals less damage. That is what earned the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen the number 3 spot. So, of course, at number 2, we've got probably my personal favorite crossbowman in the entire game, the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter. So, for stats, this one is going to look the same as the Imperial Sergeant Crossbow. We've once again got a balanced 130 for one-handed, 130 for athletics, and 130 for crossbow. This one, however, has the regular VLANDIAN benefits. We once again have that nice big shield which protects basically the entire body of the crossbowmen. They also are equipped with that shield and a sword, so they also work as an infantry unit. The VLANDIAN Sharpshooter has pretty heavy armor. It's not quite as heavy as the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen protection-wise, but it is substantially more so than the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowmen, so definitely a huge step up in armor there. But once again, we've got the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter using the best crossbow in the game, dealing the highest damage and just being the most effective crossbow overall. So I put the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter ahead of the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen, and I will every time. They are a better unit. Now, mind you, if you're playing all Imperial, then, you know, I understand going with the Imperial troops. But if you're just looking for the best soldier crossbowman in the game, the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter takes the cake. So that is the number 2 spot. And then at number 1, we have the Elite Hired Crossbow. And so this one is a mercenary troop. So they are more expensive. You can see that our wage is 18 gold for them. So much like the Veteran Sword Sister, they're going to be a more expensive troop to maintain. And also like the Veteran Sword Sister, they're not as easy to recruit. So there's 2 ways to get these ones. You can either get them after defeating an enemy army, you can capture them as prisoners, or as released troops and then recruit them straight into your inventory, or you can then recruit them after you've captured them. So that's like one of the main ways, and the other one is, again, to check taverns at towns. So when you go to any of your big cities, you check the tavern district, and it should say if there is a hired spear, hired crossbow, or elite hired crossbow available for hiring. Any of those can be turned into the elite hired crossbow. Otherwise, you have the hired pike and elite hired pike on the other side, and I don't much care for them. But the Elite Hired Crossbow is really good if you can get a substantial number of them. For stats, you can see we have one-handed of 140, athletics of 120, and crossbow of 140. So the athletics on the Elite Hired Crossbow is a little bit lower than the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter or the Imperial Sergeant Crossbowman, about 10 points lower exactly. But the one-handed and the crossbow are both 10 points higher, so they do higher damage. The Elite Hired Crossbow has the same crossbow as the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter, so best crossbow in the game. Also has a very large shield, and has the heaviest armor out of all the crossbowmen in the game. So it's the best crossbowmen in the game. The only disadvantage is the fact that they are much harder and harder to recruit and in smaller numbers, and obviously they are far more expensive to keep a large army of them. But if you're just looking for the best and price is no option and you've got all the time in the world to go around recruiting people, then the Elite Hired Crossbow is the way to go because they are just phenomenally overpowered. They've got great armor, they're decent as an infantry unit, but they're devastating as an archery unit. So that is the number 1 spot. And so that is all for today. So that was all 5 of the best different crossbowmen you can use in the game. So in order again, from worst to best, that's the Veteran Sword Sister, the Imperial Crossbowman, or the VLANDIAN Hardened Crossbowman, the Imperial Sergeant Crossbow, the VLANDIAN Sharpshooter, and at number 1, the Hired Crossbow. So that is all there is to say about Crossbowmen. Like I said, as general strengths for Crossbowmen, better range and better damage per shot, but a much slower fire rate and lower ammo that they can carry. The VLANDIAN ones are just overall my favorite because you can get them in large amounts and they're cheaper to maintain than the Hired Crossbows, and they're better than the Imperial Sergeant Crossbows because their armor is close, even if the Imperial's is slightly better, but the VLANDIAN Crossbowmen just have a much better crossbow. So that is all there is to say about Crossbowmen. So if you wanted to play and have your main archer force or ranged force in Bannerlord be Crossbowmen, then I hope this video was useful for you. But that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.